He swore he'd never feel again, not after losing her. But when the wrong woman sat down across from him that snowy December night, everything unraveled. She wasn't his date, she wasn't supposed to matter, and she definitely wasn't supposed to be the same person who walked in 10 minutes later and changed his life forever. This is a story about grief, second chances, and the kind of love that finds you when you've stopped looking. Stay with me until the end, and if this story touches you, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this journey reaches. Liam Parker hadn't wanted to be here. He sat alone at a corner table in the Silver Pine, a small restaurant downtown that tried too hard to be charming. Strung lights blinked unevenly across the ceiling. A crooked garland drooped over the bar. Someone had wrapped fake snow around the window frames, and it was peeling at the edges like old paint. Christmas was 2 weeks away, and the place smelled like cinnamon and burnt cedar. It made his chest hurt. He checked his phone. 7:15. His date was late. Of course she is, he muttered, turning the glass of water in front of him in slow circles. He didn't even know why he'd agreed to this. Sophie had asked, no, begged, him to try again. Her exact words. Try again, Dad. You're always sad. She was 8. She shouldn't have to say things like that. Liam rubbed a hand over his face and exhaled slowly. The restaurant buzzed around him, couples leaning in close, laughter spilling from nearby booths, the clatter of silverware on plates. Everyone seemed to belong somewhere. He felt like a stain. A waiter passed by, glancing at him with a look that was half pity, half annoyance. Liam ignored it. Then someone sat down across from him. He looked up, startled. A woman, maybe late 20s, with dark hair pulled into a loose ponytail and a wool coat still dusted with snow. Her cheeks were flushed from the cold and she looked frazzled, a little breathless. She wasn't smiling exactly, but there was something warm in her eyes. Sorry, she said quickly, setting her bag on the chair beside her. This seat taken? Liam blinked. Yeah. I'm waiting for someone. Oh. She paused, glancing around the crowded restaurant. Right. Sorry. Everywhere else is full. It's fine, he said, surprising himself. She's late anyway. The woman hesitated, then nodded and sat down. Thanks. I promise I won't be annoying. Liam almost smiled. Almost. No worries. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The woman pulled off her gloves and unwound her scarf, moving with the kind of distracted efficiency that came from being cold too long. She glanced at the menu, then back at him. First date? She asked. Liam froze. What? You look nervous. She tilted her head slightly. Or miserable. One of the two. He didn't know whether to laugh or leave. Both, probably. She smiled at that. Small, but real. Yeah, I get that. You here alone? He asked, not sure why he cared. For now. She shrugged. I'm supposed to meet someone, but I got held up. There was this guy on the side of the road. Flat tire, no phone, freezing his ass off. I couldn't just drive past him. Liam studied her for a second. Most people would. Yeah, well. She looked down at the table. Most people suck. He laughed, short and unexpected. It startled him how good it felt. The woman glanced up and something shifted in her expression. Not flirtation, not pity, just recognition. Like she knew what it was like to carry something heavy. I'm Elena, she said. Liam. Nice to meet you, Liam. They fell into conversation without meaning to. It started simple, her job as a social worker, his work managing a small logistics company. But it didn't stay surface level for long. Elena asked real questions, not the polite first date kind, the kind that made him pause. So why are you really here? She asked after a while, leaning forward slightly. If you don't want to be. Liam hesitated. He could have deflected, should have deflected, but there was something about her, something that made lying feel pointless. My daughter, he said quietly. She thinks I'm lonely. Are you? He didn't answer right away. Outside, snow had started falling again, soft and silent against the glass. Yeah, he admitted. I am. Elena didn't look away. She didn't offer some bullshit line about how it gets better, or time heals all wounds. She just nodded. I lost my parents when I was 19, she said. Car accident. I've been raising my younger brother ever since. He's 15 now, smart as hell, but she trailed off, her fingers tracing the edge of her napkin. Sometimes I wonder if I'm doing it right, if I'm enough. Liam's throat tightened. I know that feeling. Yeah, she said softly. I bet you do. They talked for another 20 minutes. About grief, about guilt, about the strange, suffocating weight of trying to be strong for someone else when you don't feel strong at all. Liam hadn't talked like this in years, maybe ever. It felt like opening a door he'd nailed shut. And then the restaurant door chimed. A woman walked in, blonde, polished, scanning the room with a nervous smile. She spotted Liam, waved, and started toward the table. Elena turned, following his gaze. Her face went pale. Oh my God, she whispered. Liam frowned. What? Elena stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. I have to go. Wait, what? Why? But she was already grabbing her coat, her bag, fumbling with her scarf. The blonde woman reached the table just as Elena stepped back. Liam, the woman said, smiling brightly. I'm so sorry I'm late. There was this guy on the road, flat tire, no phone. I couldn't just leave him there. Liam's stomach dropped. He looked at Elena, then at the woman, then back at Elena. He started. Elena's face was bright red now, somewhere between mortified and panicked. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. The blonde woman, Elena, looked between them, confusion flickering across her face. Wait, did you two already? No, Liam said quickly, too quickly. She sat down because the place was full. Oh. Elena, his actual date, laughed, but it sounded forced. Well, that's weird. The other Elena, the one who'd been sitting with him, was still standing there, frozen, clearly debating whether to bolt. Liam didn't know what to say, didn't know what to feel. His brain had stalled out somewhere between disbelief and something else he couldn't name. I should go, the first Elena said quietly. No, Liam said, louder than he meant to. Both women looked at him. I mean, stay, please, let's just figure this out. The blonde Elena raised an eyebrow. Figure what out? Liam didn't have an answer. He just knew he didn't want her to leave. Either of them. But especially the one who'd sat down first. The first Elena hesitated, her hand still clutching her coat. Her eyes met his, and for a second the restaurant faded. The noise, the lights, the snow outside. Okay, she said finally. Okay. And she sat back down. The next hour was one of the strangest of Liam's life. Somehow, they made it work. The blonde Elena, who insisted everyone call her Ellie to avoid confusion, was friendly, bubbly, easy to talk to. She worked in marketing, loved terrible reality TV, and had strong opinions about which holiday movies were overrated. But Liam couldn't stop looking at the other Elena. She was quieter now, more careful with her words. But every time she spoke, he felt it. That same pull, that same sense of being seen. It was unsettling and addictive. Ellie noticed, of course. She wasn't stupid. Around 8:30, she excused herself to the restroom. The moment she was gone, Elena leaned forward. This is insane, she said, half laughing, half horrified. Yeah, Liam agreed. Completely. I should go, for real this time. Don't. She blinked. What? I don't know, he said, dragging a hand through his hair. I don't want you to. Elena stared at him, her expression unreadable. Liam, you're on a date with someone else who happens to have the same name as me. I know. And you've talked to me more than you've talked to her. I know. She bit her lip, looking away. This is a bad idea. Probably. When Ellie came back, she was already putting on her coat. I'm really sorry, she said, smiling apologetically. I just got a call from my brother. He's locked out of the apartment and I have to go let him in. It was a lie. A kind one, but a lie. Liam could see it in her eyes. Oh, Ellie said, clearly disappointed. That sucks. Rain check? Definitely, Elena said, though she didn't look at Liam when she said it. She left quickly after that, slipping out into the snow without looking back. Liam and Ellie stayed for another 15 minutes, but the evening had lost its momentum. Ellie was sweet about it, but they both knew. You like her, Ellie said eventually, not unkindly. Liam opened his mouth to deny it, then stopped. I don't even know her. Yeah, Ellie smiled sadly. But you want to. They parted ways outside the restaurant. No second date planned. No awkward promises to stay in touch. Just a hug and a quiet acknowledgement that sometimes things don't work out. Liam walked to his car alone, his breath fogging in the cold air. He should have felt relieved, or disappointed, or something. Instead, he just felt awake. For the first time in 3 years, he felt awake. Sophie was still up when he got home. She was curled on the couch in her pajamas, a blanket draped over her shoulders, watching some animated movie he'd seen 100 times. The Christmas tree in the corner blinked unevenly. Half the lights were out, but he hadn't bothered to fix them. Hey, kiddo, he said, hanging up his coat. She looked up, eyes bright. How was it? Liam sank onto the couch beside her. Weird. Weird good or weird bad? He thought about it. I don't know yet. Sophie frowned. Did you like her? It's complicated. That's what you always say. Liam sighed, pulling her close. She smelled like strawberry shampoo and popcorn. Yeah, I know. They sat in silence for a while, the TV filling the space between them. Sophie's head rested against his shoulder, warm and solid and real. Dad? She said quietly. Yeah? I think Mom would want you to be happy. Liam's chest tightened. He didn't trust himself to speak, so he just kissed the top of her head. I love you, Soph. Love you too. He tried not to think about Elena over the next few days. He failed. Work was a blur. Meetings, logistics, problems that needed solving. He went through the motions, but his mind kept drifting. He didn't have her number, didn't know her last name, didn't even know if she'd want to hear from him. And then, 3 days later, Sophie's school called. There was a holiday event that evening, some kind of craft fair and carol sing-along. Parents were encouraged to attend. Liam had forgotten all about it. He almost didn't go. But Sophie had been looking forward to it for weeks, and he couldn't bring himself to let her down. So he showed up. The school gym was packed, tables covered in glitter and construction paper, kids running everywhere, parents milling around with tired smiles and lukewarm coffee. A piano sat in the corner, and someone was playing a halting version of Jingle Bells. Liam spotted Sophie near the cookie table, laughing with a group of friends. She waved at him, and he waved back. And then he saw her. Elena. She was standing near the far wall, talking to a teenage boy, tall, lanky, with the same dark hair. Her brother, Liam realized. His heart kicked hard against his ribs. Before he could think better of it, he started walking toward her. She saw him halfway across the room. Her eyes widened. Liam? Hey. What are you... She stopped, glancing around. Do you have a kid here? Yeah, Sophie, she's 8. Elena blinked. Then she laughed, soft and surprised. Of course you do. You? She gestured to the boy beside her. This is my brother, Marcus. Marcus gave a lazy wave. Sup? Liam nodded. Hey! An awkward silence settled between them. Marcus looked between them, smirking. I'm going to go get more cookies, he said, already backing away. You two talk, or whatever. Elena shot him a look, but he was gone. She turned back to Liam, her expression uncertain. So, this is weird, she said. Very. I didn't think I'd see you again. Yeah, Liam said. Me neither. She bit her lip, looking down. I'm sorry I left like that. At the restaurant, it was just, you don't have to apologize. I kind of do. You really don't. He took a breath. I'm glad you're here. Elena looked up at him, and something in her face softened. Yeah? Yeah. They stood there for a moment, the noise of the gym fading into background static. Do you want to get coffee sometime? Liam asked, the words tumbling out before he could stop them. Like actual coffee, not a weird accidental blind date. Elena smiled, slow and real. I'd like that. Yeah? Yeah. And just like that, the world felt a little less cold. They met 2 days later at a cafe near the river. It was small, warm, the kind of place that smelled like espresso and old books. Elena was already there when he arrived, sitting by the window with a mug cradled in her hands. She looked up when he walked in, and her face lit up in a way that made his chest ache. "Hi," she said. "Hi." They talked for hours, about everything, about nothing, about the things that mattered and the things that didn't. Elena told him about Marcus, how he was brilliant but stubborn, how she worried constantly that she wasn't doing enough. Liam told her about Sophie, how she was brave and bright, and sometimes so much like her mother it hurt to look at her. They didn't dance around the hard stuff. They didn't pretend. And somewhere in the middle of it all, Liam realized something. He wasn't scared anymore. Not of this. Not of her. "Can I ask you something?" Elena said eventually, her voice quieter now. "Sure." "Why'd you agree to that date? The blind date? If you didn't want to go." Liam thought about it. "I guess I didn't want Sophie to think I'd given up." Elena nodded slowly. "And have you given up?" "I thought I had," he admitted. "But I don't know. Maybe not." She smiled at that, sad and hopeful all at once. "Good." When they finally left the cafe, the sun had already set. Snow was falling again, soft and quiet, dusting the sidewalks and the streetlights. Elena pulled her coat tighter around herself, her breath misting in the cold air. "Thanks for this," she said. "Yeah, any time." They stood there for a moment, neither of them moving. And then, before he could overthink it, Liam reached out and took her hand. She didn't pull away. "Good night, Elena." "Good night, Liam." Plus, over the next week, they fell into something that felt almost normal. Coffee dates. Lunch breaks. Long phone calls after Sophie had gone to bed. Elena fit into his life in a way that felt effortless, not because it was easy, but because it was right. Sophie adored her. The first time Elena came over for dinner, Sophie practically vibrated with excitement. She showed Elena her room, her drawings, her collection of stuffed animals that she was definitely too old for but refused to get rid of. Elena listened to all of it, patient, genuine, kind. And when Sophie asked if Elena could stay for a movie, Liam didn't hesitate. Of course. They watched some animated thing about talking animals. Sophie fell asleep halfway through, curled up between them on the couch. Elena glanced down at her, smiling softly. "She's amazing." "Yeah," Liam said. "She is." "You're doing a good job, you know. With her." Liam's throat tightened. "I'm trying. I know." Elena looked at him, her eyes serious. "And it shows." For a long moment, they just sat there, the three of them tangled together on the couch, the TV still playing, the lights from the Christmas tree casting everything in soft gold. It felt like something Liam thought he'd lost forever. It felt like home. But nothing good lasts without a fight. 2 days before Christmas, Elena showed up at his door unannounced. She looked pale, shaken. "Can we talk?" she asked. Liam's stomach dropped. "Yeah, of course, come in." She didn't sit. She stood in the middle of the living room, her arms wrapped around herself like she was holding something in. "I got a call today," she said quietly, "from an organization I applied to months ago. They run support programs overseas, education, housing, that kind of thing. It's in Spain." Liam's chest went cold. "Okay. They're offering me a position, full-time, good pay, benefits. It's everything I've been working toward." "That's great," Liam said, even though it felt like his lungs were collapsing. "That's really great, Elena." She looked at him, her eyes shining. "It means I'd have to leave in 3 weeks." The words hung in the air, heavy and final. Liam didn't know what to say, didn't know what he was allowed to say. "And Marcus?" he asked. "He'd come with me. It's a good school system there. Better opportunities." She swallowed hard. "It's the kind of chance I can't turn down. Not for him. Not if I want to give him the life he deserves." "Right," Liam said quietly. "Yeah, of course." Elena's face crumpled. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Liam. I didn't know this would happen. Not now." "It's okay. It's not." "Elena, I don't want to leave," she said, her voice breaking. "But I don't know what else to do." Liam crossed the room and pulled her into his arms. She buried her face in his chest, and he felt her shake. "You have to go," he whispered. "You know you do." "I know." They stood there for a long time, holding on like they could stop the world from moving forward. But they couldn't. Nothing could. The next morning, Liam woke up feeling like he'd been hollowed out. Sophie was already awake, sitting at the kitchen table with a bowl of cereal, swinging her legs. She looked up when he walked in, her face brightening. "Morning, Dad." "Morning, kiddo." He poured himself coffee, black and bitter, and leaned against the counter. Outside, the sky was gray and heavy with the promise of more snow. "Is Elena coming over today?" Sophie asked. Liam's chest tightened. "I don't think so, Soph." "Why not?" He didn't know how to answer that. Didn't know how to explain that sometimes people leave even when you don't want them to. "She's just busy," he said finally. Sophie frowned, stirring her cereal without eating it. "Did you guys have a fight?" "No, nothing like that." "Then why do you look sad?" Liam set his coffee down and crossed the room, kneeling beside her chair. "I'm okay. I promise." Sophie didn't look convinced, but she didn't push. She just wrapped her arms around his neck and held on tight. "I love you, Dad." "I love you too, sweetheart." He stayed there for a moment, breathing in the smell of her strawberry shampoo, trying to ground himself in something real. But all he could think about was Elena, the way she'd looked at him last night, the way she'd said she didn't want to leave, and the way she was leaving anyway. Tim. He texted her later that afternoon. "Liam, how are you?" The response came almost immediately. "Elena, trying to figure out how to pack my entire life into 2 suitcases." Liam, "Sounds fun." Elena, "It's really not." He stared at the screen, his thumb hovering over the keyboard. There were 100 things he wanted to say. None of them felt right. Liam, "Can I see you? Before you go?" The 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Elena, "I don't know if that's a good idea." Liam, "Please." A long pause. Elena, "Okay." Ma'am. They met at the same cafe by the river. Elena was already there when he arrived, sitting in the same spot by the window, but this time she didn't smile when he walked in. She just looked tired. "Hey," Liam said, sliding into the seat across from her. "Hey." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The cafe buzzed around them, conversations, the hiss of the espresso machine, the low hum of holiday music playing overhead. "I'm sorry," Elena said, finally, "for dumping all of this on you. I didn't mean to—" "Don't," Liam interrupted. "Don't apologize. You didn't do anything wrong." "It feels like I did." "You're doing what's best for your brother. That's not wrong." Elena looked down at her mug, her fingers tracing the rim. "It doesn't feel right, though." "I know." She glanced up at him, her eyes red-rimmed. "I keep thinking about Sophie, about you, about what this could have been." Liam's throat tightened. "Me too. And I keep wondering if I'm making a mistake." "You're not," he said, even though it killed him to say it. "You're giving Marcus a future. That's not a mistake." Elena's face crumpled, and she pressed a hand to her mouth, trying to hold it together. "I hate this." "Yeah, me too." They sat in silence for a while, the weight of everything unsaid pressing down on them. "When do you leave?" Liam asked quietly. "January 10th. Less than 3 weeks." "Okay." Elena wiped at her eyes, laughing bitterly. "This is so stupid. We barely know each other. This shouldn't hurt this much." "But it does." "Yeah," she whispered. "It does." Liam reached across the table and took her hand. She held on tight, her fingers cold and trembling. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Anything. If things were different, if you didn't have to go, would you stay?" Elena looked at him for a long moment, her eyes searching his. "Yes." The word hung between them, fragile and certain. "Then let's not waste the time we have left," Liam said. Elena's breath hitched. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I don't want to spend the next 3 weeks pretending this doesn't matter. I don't want to walk away early because it's easier. Liam, I want to be with you, however long we've got, even if it's hard." Elena stared at him, her eyes filling with tears. "That's going to make it worse. When I leave." "I know." "So why would you do that?" Liam squeezed her hand. "Because it's worth it." Elena's face crumpled again, and this time she didn't try to hide it. She leaned forward, resting her forehead against their joined hands, and cried. Liam didn't let go Wotiam. Over the next few days, they tried to make the most of the time they had. Elena came over for dinner. They watched movies with Sophie, who was oblivious to the ticking clock hanging over everything. They drove out to the edge of town one night and walked through a Christmas light display, their breath misting in the cold air. It was beautiful. And it was painful. Every moment felt borrowed. One evening, after Sophie had gone to bed, Elena and Liam sat together on the couch, the house quiet except for the hum of the heater and the soft crackle of the fireplace. I talked to Marcus today, Elena said, her head resting on Liam's shoulder. About Spain. How'd he take it? He's excited, which is good. But also, she trailed off. Also what? Also, I think he knows I'm not. Liam didn't say anything. He just ran his fingers through her hair, slow and steady. He asked me if I was leaving because of him, Elena continued. If I was doing this because I felt like I had to. What did you say? I told him the truth, that I'm doing it because I want him to have opportunities I never had, that I want him to go to a good school, to see the world, to not have to worry the way I did. And, Elena sighed, he told me I worry too much. Liam smiled faintly. He's probably right. Yeah, probably. They sat in silence for a while, wrapped up in each other, the fire casting long shadows across the room. I'm going to miss this, Elena whispered. I'm going to miss you. Liam's chest ached. I'm going to miss you too. Do you think... She stopped, hesitating. What? Do you think we'll stay in touch? After I leave? Liam thought about it, about the distance, about time zones and busy schedules and the way things fade when you're not careful. I want to, he said honestly, but I don't know if that'll make it easier or harder. Elena nodded slowly. Yeah, me neither. Christmas came and went in a blur. Elena spent Christmas Eve with them, her and Marcus both. They exchanged small gifts, ate too much food, and stayed up late playing board games that Sophie kept winning. It felt like a family, a real one, and that made everything worse. On Christmas morning, Sophie tore through her presents with the kind of unfiltered joy that only kids could manage. Elena sat beside Liam on the couch, watching with a soft smile. Thank you, Liam said quietly. Elena glanced at him. For what? For being here. For making this feel normal. She leaned her head on his shoulder. I'm glad I could. Later that afternoon, after Marcus and Sophie had retreated to Sophie's room to build some kind of elaborate Lego fortress, Elena and Liam stood together in the kitchen, washing dishes in comfortable silence. Can I tell you something? Elena said, her hands submerged in soapy water. Always. I've been thinking about what happens after I leave. Liam's stomach twisted, but he kept his voice steady. Yeah? And I keep imagining this version of my life where I stay, where I figure out some way to make it work here, where I don't have to choose. Elena, I know, she said quickly. I know it's not realistic. I know Marcus needs this, but I can't stop thinking about it. Liam set down the dish he'd been drying and turned to face her. You're doing the right thing. Then why does it feel so wrong? He didn't have an answer for that. Elena pulled her hands from the water and dried them on a towel, her movements slow and deliberate. What if I'm making the biggest mistake of my life? You're not. You don't know that. I do, Liam said firmly, because you're putting someone you love first. That's never a mistake. Elena looked at him, her eyes glassy. You're a good person, Liam Parker. So are you. She stepped forward and kissed him, soft and desperate, and full of everything they couldn't say. When they pulled apart, her forehead rested against his, and neither of them moved. I don't want to leave you, she whispered. I don't want you to go. But I have to. I know. The days blurred together after that. New Year's came. They didn't celebrate, didn't go out, didn't make a big deal of it. Instead, they stayed in. Just the two of them. Sophie was at a sleepover and Marcus was out with friends. They cooked dinner together, badly. The pasta was overcooked, the sauce was too salty, and they burned the garlic bread. But they laughed through it, and that was enough. After dinner, they sat on the floor in front of the fireplace, a bottle of wine between them. I have 8 days left, Elena said, staring into the flames. Liam's chest tightened. I know. I don't know how to do this. Me neither. Elena turned to look at him, her face shadowed and soft in the firelight. Do you think we would have worked if I wasn't leaving? Yeah, Liam said without hesitation. I do. How do you know? Because I haven't felt like this in 3 years, and I don't think that's an accident. Elena's eyes filled with tears. I feel the same way. Then maybe this isn't the end, Liam said, even though he wasn't sure he believed it. Maybe it's just a pause. Elena smiled sadly. That's a nice thought. But you don't believe it. I don't know what I believe anymore. They finished the wine in silence, and when the fire burned low, they moved to the couch, tangled together under a blanket. Elena fell asleep first, her head on Liam's chest, her breathing slow and even. Liam stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, memorizing the weight of her against him. The week before Elena left was chaos. She had 1,000 things to do: packing, paperwork, goodbyes. Liam helped where he could, but mostly he just tried to stay out of the way. Sophie, on the other hand, was struggling. She'd been quiet for days, withdrawn in a way that wasn't like her. Liam found her one evening sitting on her bed, staring at a drawing she'd made of the 4 of them, her, Liam, Elena, and Marcus, all holding hands under a Christmas tree. Hey, kiddo, Liam said gently, sitting beside her. You okay? Sophie shrugged. Talk to me. Is Elena leaving because of me? She asked, her voice small. Liam's heart broke. What? No. Sophie, no. Why would you think that? Because she started coming around and now she's going away. And I thought maybe she didn't like me anymore. Sophie. Liam pulled her into his lap, holding her tight. Elena leaving has nothing to do with you. She's going because she has to help her brother. That's it. But I don't want her to go. I know, sweetheart. I don't either. Sophie sniffled, wiping at her eyes. Can't we ask her to stay? Liam's throat closed up. It's not that simple. Why not? Because sometimes people have to do things they don't want to do, even when it's hard. Sophie was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, I'm going to miss her. Me too, Soph. Me too. What? 2 days before Elena's flight, she came over for dinner one last time. It was awkward at first. Everyone knew this was goodbye, even if no one said it out loud. But Sophie broke the tension, as she always did, by insisting they play charades. Marcus groaned but went along with it, and before long they were all laughing, the weight of everything lifting just a little. After Sophie went to bed, the 4 of them, Liam, Elena, and Marcus, sat around the table, picking at leftover dessert. I'm going to miss this place, Marcus said, glancing around. It's nice here. You're welcome anytime, Liam said. Marcus grinned. Even after my sister breaks your heart? Marcus, Elena snapped, her face going red. What? I'm just saying, Don't. Marcus held up his hands in surrender, but he was still smiling. Elena sighed, rubbing her temples. I'm sorry, he's the worst. I'm really not, Marcus said cheerfully. Liam laughed despite himself. It's fine. Marcus stood, stretching. I'm going to head out. Give you 2 some space to be all tragic and romantic. Marcus, love you, sis. He grabbed his coat and headed for the door. See you at home. And then it was just the 2 of them. Elena stared down at the table, her hands folded in front of her. I'm sorry about him. He's a good kid. He's a pain in the ass. Liam smiled. That too. They sat in silence for a moment, the house quiet around them. This is it, isn't it? Elena said softly. The last time. Liam's chest ached. Yeah, I think so. Elena nodded, blinking hard. I don't know how to say goodbye to you. Then don't. She looked up at him, confused. Let's not make this a goodbye, Liam said. Let's just say we'll see each other again, someday. Elena's lips trembled. You think we will? I don't know, but I want to believe it. Elena stood and crossed the room, sitting down in his lap and wrapping her arms around him. She buried her face in his neck and he felt her shake. "I'm going to remember you," she whispered. "Always." Liam held her tight, his eyes burning. "Me too." They stayed like that for a long time, holding on to each other like they could stop time from moving forward. But they couldn't. Nothing could. The morning Elena left, Liam didn't go to the airport. She'd asked him not to, said it would be too hard. And he'd agreed, even though every part of him wanted to be there. Instead, he stood in his driveway watching the snow fall, his phone in his hand. At exactly 9 a.m., a text came through. "Elena, boarding now." Liam, "Safe flight." Elena, "Thank you for everything." Liam, "Take care of yourself, Elena." Elena, "You too." And that was it. Liam stared at the screen for a long time, waiting for something else. But nothing came. He slipped the phone back into his pocket and walked inside. Sophie was sitting on the couch, her arms wrapped around her knees. "Is she gone?" she asked. "Yeah," Liam said quietly. "She's gone." Sophie nodded, her face blank. Then she stood and walked over to him, wrapping her arms around his waist. Liam held her close, his heart breaking all over again. The days after Elena left felt like wading through mud. Liam went through the motions, work, dinner, bedtime routines, but everything felt muted, like someone had turned down the volume on his life. Sophie noticed. Of course she did. She didn't ask questions, but she stayed closer than usual. She'd curl up next to him on the couch in the evenings, quiet and watchful, like she was waiting for him to fall apart. He didn't. Not in front of her, anyway. At night, after she was asleep, he'd sit in the kitchen with the lights off, scrolling through old texts from Elena, reading them over and over like they might say something different this time. They never did. A week after she left, his phone rang. Elena's name flashed on the screen, and his heart kicked hard against his ribs. He answered on the second ring. "Hey," he said, trying to sound normal. "Hey." Her voice was tired, a little distant. "Is this a bad time?" "No, never." There was a pause. He could hear noise in the background. Traffic, maybe. Voices speaking in a language he didn't understand. "How's Spain?" he asked. "It's good. Different. Marcus is adjusting faster than I am." "That's good." "Yeah." Another pause. "How's Sophie?" "She misses you." Elena's breath hitched. "I miss her too." Liam closed his eyes, pressing the phone harder against his ear, like it might bring her closer. "How are you doing?" "Really? I don't know," she admitted. "Some days are okay. Some days I wake up and forget where I am. And then I remember, and it hits all over again." "Yeah, I get that." "Do you?" Her voice was soft, almost fragile. "Because sometimes I feel like I made the biggest mistake of my life." Liam's chest tightened. "You didn't." "You keep saying that." "Because it's true." Elena laughed, but it sounded hollow. "I wish I believed you." They talked for another 20 minutes. About nothing. About everything. She told him about the apartment they'd found. About Marcus's new school. About the way the city smelled like oranges and old stone. And Liam told her about work. About Sophie's latest drawing. About the way the house felt too quiet now. When they finally hung up, Liam sat in the dark for a long time, staring at the phone in his hand. It didn't help. Hearing her voice, it just made the ache worse. They kept in touch after that. Not every day, but enough. Texts, mostly. Little updates, photos. Elena sent pictures of the narrow streets near her apartment, the markets, the coastline. Liam sent pictures of Sophie, building snowmen, decorating cookies, laughing at something only she found funny. It felt like holding on to something that was already slipping away. One night in late January, Sophie asked the question Liam had been dreading. "Is Elena coming back?" They were sitting at the dinner table, picking at reheated pasta. Sophie had barely touched her food, and Liam knew she'd been working up to this all evening. "I don't know, Soph," he said honestly, "but you want her to." It wasn't a question. Liam set down his fork. "Yeah, I do." Sophie looked down at her plate, her small hands gripping the edge of the table. "Do you think she forgot about us?" "No," Liam said immediately. "She didn't forget." "Then why doesn't she come back?" Liam didn't know how to explain it. Didn't know how to make an 8-year-old understand that sometimes people had to choose between two impossible things. She's doing something really important right now, he said carefully, for her brother, and that's where she needs to be. Sophie's lip trembled. But we need her too. Liam's throat closed up. He stood and crossed to her side of the table, kneeling beside her chair. I know, sweetheart, I know. She threw her arms around his neck and cried, hard, messy sobs that shook her whole body. Liam held her, his own eyes burning. He'd thought losing his wife was the worst pain he'd ever feel. He'd been wrong. February came and went in a haze of cold rain and gray skies. Work picked up, which was a blessing and a curse. It kept him busy, kept his mind occupied. But it also meant longer hours, more stress, less time with Sophie. One Thursday evening, his boss called him into the office. Liam, we need to talk, she said, gesturing to the chair across from her desk. Liam sat, his stomach twisting. What's up? How are you doing? Honestly. He blinked. I'm fine. She gave him a look that said she didn't believe him. You've been distracted, missing deadlines. And I get it. Life happens. But I need to know if you're okay. Liam rubbed a hand over his face. I'm handling it. Are you? I'm trying. His boss leaned back in her chair, her expression softening. Look, I'm not trying to pile on, but if you need some time off, just say the word. We can figure it out. I don't need time off. Liam, I'm fine, he said, more sharply than he intended. Then he took a breath. I'm sorry. I'll get my shit together. I promise. She studied him for a moment, then nodded. Okay, but if that changes, let me know. Liam left the office feeling like he'd barely scraped by. He was falling apart, and he didn't know how to stop it. That night he called Elena. She answered on the fourth ring, sounding breathless. Liam, is everything okay? Yeah, sorry, I needed to hear your voice. There was a pause. Are you sure you're okay? No, he admitted. Not really. Elena sighed, and he could picture her sitting down, tucking her legs under her the way she always did. What's going on? I don't know. I just feel like I'm barely holding it together. And I hate that I'm calling you about it because you've got your own stuff to deal with, but Liam, stop, Elena said gently. You can call me. Anytime. Yeah? Yeah. He exhaled slowly, some of the tension in his chest loosening. Thanks. Do you want to talk about it? Not really. Okay. Then tell me something good. Liam thought for a moment. Sophie lost a tooth yesterday. She was so proud of herself. Elena laughed, soft and warm. That's adorable. Yeah, she wrote a note to the tooth fairy asking for extra money because it was a molar. Did it work? I gave her an extra $1. Softy. Liam smiled despite himself. Yeah, probably. They talked for another hour, about nothing important, about everything that mattered. And when they finally hung up, Liam felt a little less like he was drowning. In early March, Elena sent him a video. It was Marcus, standing in front of a whiteboard covered in equations, explaining some kind of science project. He was animated, confident, completely in his element. The text that came with it said, he got accepted into an advanced program. He's over the moon. Liam smiled as he watched it, genuinely happy for the kid. He texted back, that's amazing. Tell him congrats. Elena, I will. He misses you guys, by the way. Liam, we miss him too. Elena, how's Sophie? Liam, good. She made the honor roll. Elena, that's great. Tell her I'm proud of her. Liam, I will. There was a long pause. Then another text came through. Elena, I think about you all the time. Liam stared at the screen, his chest tight. Liam, me too. Elena, does it get easier? Liam, no. Elena, yeah, I didn't think so. By the end of March, Sophie's school announced a spring festival. It was the same kind of event they'd gone to before Christmas. Crafts, games, food trucks, the whole deal. Sophie had been excited about it for weeks. Liam took the afternoon off work and drove her over. The parking lot was packed. Families everywhere. Kids running around with painted faces. parents chasing after them with tired smiles. Music played from somewhere near the field, and the smell of fried food hung heavy in the air. Sophie grabbed his hand and dragged him toward the craft tables, practically vibrating with excitement. "Come on, Dad. I want to make a birdhouse." Liam laughed. Okay, lead the way." They spent the next hour bouncing between stations, painting, gluing, decorating cookies that were more frosting than actual cookie. Sophie was in her element, and Liam found himself relaxing for the first time in weeks. And then he saw her. Elena. She was standing near the edge of the field, talking to someone he didn't recognize. Her hair was shorter now, and she looked thinner. But it was definitely her. Liam's heart stopped. For a second, he thought he was imagining it, that his brain had conjured her up out of desperation. But then she turned, and their eyes met. Her face went pale. Liam didn't think. He just moved. He crossed the field in what felt like slow motion, weaving through clusters of families, his pulse pounding in his ears. Elena met him halfway. "Liam," she breathed. "What are you doing here?" he asked, his voice shaking. I came back, just for a few days. I had some paperwork to sort out, and I thought—" She stopped, her eyes searching his face. "I wasn't sure if I should call." "Why wouldn't you call?" "Because I didn't know if you'd want to see me." Liam stared at her, disbelief in something else, something raw and desperate, flooding through him. "Are you serious?" "I left, Liam. I walked away. I didn't think—" "I've thought about you every single day since you left," he said, his voice rough. "Every single day." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "Me too." They stood there, frozen, the noise of the festival fading into background static. "How long are you here?" Liam asked. 4 days. "That's it?" "Yeah." Liam's chest ached. 4 days. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. "Can I see you?" he asked. "While you're here?" Elena nodded, wiping at her eyes. "I'd like that." Sob. Sophie didn't notice Elena at first. She was too busy showing Liam the birdhouse she'd just finished painting. Bright yellow, with crooked purple flowers. "Look, Dad. Isn't it perfect?" "It's great, kiddo. I'm going to hang it in the backyard so the birds can—" She stopped mid-sentence, her eyes going wide. "Elena?" Elena turned, her face breaking into a smile. "Hey, Sophie." Sophie dropped the birdhouse and launched herself at Elena, wrapping her arms around her waist. "You're here! You came back!" Elena hugged her tight, her eyes closing. "Just for a little bit, sweetheart. Are you staying?" Elena hesitated, glancing at Liam. "Not this time." Sophie's face fell, but she didn't let go. "I missed you." "I missed you too," Elena whispered. Liam watched them, his throat tight. This was a mistake. Seeing her again, it was only going to make everything harder, but he couldn't bring himself to care. That evening, after Sophie had gone to bed, Liam and Elena sat on his front porch, wrapped in blankets against the cool spring air. "I didn't plan this," Elena said quietly. "Coming back. I thought it would be easier if I just stayed away." "Was it?" Liam asked. "No." They sat in silence for a moment, the sound of crickets filling the space between them. "How's Spain?" Liam asked. "It's good. Really good, actually. Marcus is thriving. The program he's in, it's exactly what he needed. That's great." "Yeah." Elena pulled the blanket tighter around herself. "But I hate it." Liam looked at her, surprised. "What?" "I hate being there," she said, her voice breaking. "I hate waking up alone. I hate that Marcus is the only person I talk to most days. I hate that I can't just drive over here and see you." "Elena, I thought it would get easier," she continued, the words tumbling out now. "I thought I'd adjust, that I'd settle in and it would start to feel like home. But it doesn't. It feels like I'm living someone else's life." Liam didn't know what to say, didn't know if there was anything to say. "I'm sorry," Elena whispered. "I shouldn't be dumping this on you." "You're not dumping anything." "I am, and it's not fair because I'm the one who left. I don't get to come back and complain about it." "Elena, look at me." She turned, her eyes red and glassy. "You're allowed to feel however you feel," Liam said. "You don't have to apologize for that." Elena's face crumpled, and she leaned into him, burying her face in his shoulder. Liam wrapped his arms around her, holding her as she cried. I don't know what to do, she said, her voice muffled against his shirt. I don't know how to fix this. Maybe you don't have to fix it, Liam said quietly. Maybe you just have to get through it. And then what? He didn't have an answer for that. Over the next 3 days, they fell back into something that felt almost normal. Elena came over for dinner. They took Sophie to the park. They stayed up late talking, the way they used to. But there was a heaviness to it now, a countdown ticking in the background. On her last night after Sophie had gone to bed, Elena and Liam sat together in the living room, the house dark except for the glow of the streetlight outside. I don't want to go back, Elena said suddenly. Liam looked at her, his heart pounding. Then don't. It's not that simple. Why not? Because Marcus is there, because I signed a contract, because I can't just walk away from everything I've built. Even if it's making you miserable? Elena didn't answer. I'm not asking you to stay, Liam said carefully. I'm just saying, maybe there's another option. Something you haven't thought of yet. Like what? I don't know, but I do know that you don't have to choose between being happy and doing the right thing. Sometimes they're the same thing. Elena stared at him, her eyes searching his face. Do you really believe that? I want to. She leaned forward, resting her forehead against his. I don't know how to do this, Liam. I don't know how to leave you again. Then don't think about it, he whispered. Not tonight. Elena kissed him, slow and desperate and full of everything they couldn't say. And for a few stolen hours, they pretended tomorrow wasn't coming. The next morning, Liam drove her to the airport. They didn't talk much. There wasn't much left to say. When they pulled up to the curb, Elena turned to him, her eyes glassy. Thank you, she said, for these last few days. For everything. Yeah. She reached for the door handle, then stopped. Liam? Yeah? I love you. The words hung in the air, fragile and certain. Liam's throat closed up. I love you too. Elena nodded, tears streaming down her face. Then she got out of the car and walked away. Liam watched her disappear through the sliding doors, his hands gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. And then he drove home. Alone. The weeks after that were the hardest yet. Sophie stopped asking about Elena, stopped talking about her altogether. Like, if she didn't say her name, it wouldn't hurt as much. Liam understood the impulse. He threw himself into work, into routines, into anything that kept his mind busy. But at night, when the house was quiet and Sophie was asleep, the loneliness crept in like a fog. He thought about calling Elena, texting her, telling her he couldn't do this anymore. But what would that accomplish? She was 3,000 miles away, living a life that didn't include him. And he was here, stuck, trying to move forward when every part of him wanted to stay still. One evening in mid-April, Sophie came into the kitchen while he was making dinner. Dad? Yeah, kiddo? Can I ask you something? Always. She hesitated, twisting her hands together. Do you think Elena's ever coming back? Like, for real? Liam set down the knife he'd been using and turned to face her. I don't know, Soph. I really don't. But you hope so? Yeah, I do. Sophie nodded slowly. Me too. Liam pulled her into a hug, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. We'll be okay, he said, though he wasn't sure who he was trying to convince. No matter what happens, we'll be okay. Sophie held on tight, and for a moment, Liam let himself believe it. Yeah. 2 weeks later, Liam's phone rang at 11 o'clock at night. He was already in bed, half asleep, when the vibration jolted him awake. He grabbed the phone, his heart sinking when he saw the name on the screen. Elena. Hello? Liam. Her voice was shaking. I need your help. He sat up, suddenly wide awake. What's wrong? Are you okay? It's Marcus, she said, her words tumbling over each other. He got into a fight at school. Some kid said something about our parents, and Marcus he snapped. They're talking about suspending him. Okay, slow down. Is he hurt? No, but he's a mess, Liam. He won't talk to me. He just keeps saying he wants to come home. Liam's chest tightened. What do you need me to do? I don't know, Elena said, her voice breaking. I didn't know who else to call. It's okay. You did the right thing. Just breathe. He heard her take a shaky breath on the other end of the line. Talk to him, Liam said. Tell him it's going to be okay. And then figure out what he needs. If he needs to come back for a while, then bring him back. I can't just leave. I have responsibilities here. Elena, he's your brother. He comes first. There was a long pause. Yeah, she whispered. You're right. Call me tomorrow and let me know how he's doing, okay? Okay. And Elena? Yeah? You're doing a good job, even when it doesn't feel like it. Her breath hitched. Thank you. They hung up, and Liam sat in the dark for a long time, staring at the phone in his hand. Something had shifted. He could feel it. And he didn't know if that was a good thing or a terrible one. Elena didn't call the next day. Or the day after that. Liam tried not to read into it, tried to tell himself she was just busy, that she was dealing with Marcus, that she'd reach out when she could. But the silence gnawed at him. On the third day, he broke down and texted her, Liam, how's Marcus doing? The response came hours later. Elena, better, still shaken up. We're figuring it out. Liam, and you? Elena, hanging in there. It felt distant, careful, like she was holding something back. Liam stared at the screen, debating whether to push. But before he could type anything, another text came through. Elena, I'm sorry I haven't called. Things have been complicated. Liam, it's okay. I get it. Elena, I miss you. Liam, I miss you too. He waited for more, but nothing came. Schultze. A week later, Sophie's school called in the middle of the afternoon. Liam was in a meeting when his phone buzzed. He ignored it the first time, but when it rang again immediately after, his stomach dropped. Excuse me, he said, stepping out of the conference room. Mr. Parker? The voice on the other end was calm but urgent. This is Principal Davis. There's been an incident involving Sophie. Liam's heart slammed against his ribs. What kind of incident? Is she hurt? She's fine physically, but we need you to come pick her up. There was an altercation with another student. An altercation? Sophie hit another child. Liam froze. What? I know this is out of character for her. We can discuss the details when you get here. Liam was already grabbing his coat. I'm on my way. He made it to the school in 15 minutes, his mind racing the entire drive. Sophie didn't hit people. She was gentle, quiet, conflict-averse to a fault. When he walked into the principal's office, Sophie was sitting in a chair against the wall, her arms crossed over her chest, her face blotchy and tear-streaked. Sophie, Liam said, kneeling in front of her. What happened? She didn't look at him. I don't want to talk about it. Sweetheart, I said I don't want to talk about it. Liam pulled back, startled by the edge in her voice. Principal Davis cleared her throat. Mr. Parker, if we could speak privately for a moment. Liam glanced at Sophie, then nodded. He followed the principal into the hallway, leaving the door cracked. What happened? He asked. According to witnesses, another student made a comment about Sophie's mother. Sophie responded by pushing her and then hitting her in the arm. Liam's chest tightened. Someone brought up her mom? Yes, I've already spoken to the other child's parents. But I wanted to check in with you as well. This isn't typical behavior for Sophie, and I'm concerned. Yeah, Liam said quietly. Me too. Has anything changed at home recently? Anything that might be affecting her? Liam thought about Elena, about the last few months, about how Sophie had stopped talking about her altogether. It's been a tough year, he said carefully. We're working through some stuff. Principal Davis nodded. I understand, and I'm not going to suspend her. This seems more like a reaction to stress than anything else, but I do think it might be helpful for her to talk to someone, the school counselor or a therapist outside of school. Liam rubbed a hand over his face. Yeah, okay, I'll look into it. Good. And Mr. Parker, you're doing a great job. I can see how much you care. Sometimes that's all they need. Liam wasn't sure he believed her, but he nodded anyway. The drive home was silent. Sophie stared out the window, her jaw set, her hands gripping the seatbelt like it might protect her from whatever was coming next. When they pulled into the driveway, Liam turned off the engine but didn't get out. Soph, he said gently, we need to talk about what happened. I already said I don't want to. I know, but we have to. She didn't respond. Liam took a breath. What did that kid say about your mom? Sophie's lip trembled. She said Mom left because she didn't love us anymore. Liam's heart shattered. Sophie, that's not true. You know that, right? But she did leave, Sophie said, her voice breaking. She's gone. And now Elena's gone too. And I don't understand why everyone leaves. Liam reached over and pulled her into his arms, holding her tight as she sobbed into his shoulder. Your mom didn't leave because she stopped loving us, he said, his own voice shaking. She got sick, and she fought so hard to stay. But sometimes things happen that we can't control. Then why did Elena leave? Because she had to take care of her brother, just like I take care of you. But she could have stayed. She could have brought him here. It's not that simple, kiddo. Why not? Sophie pulled back, her face red and angry. Why does everything have to be so complicated? Liam didn't have an answer for that. I hate this, Sophie said, wiping at her eyes. I hate feeling like this. I know, sweetheart. I know. They sat in the car for a long time, the air thick with everything they couldn't fix. That night, after Sophie had cried herself to sleep, Liam called Elena. She answered on the first ring. Hey, she said, sounding surprised. Is everything okay? Not really. Her tone shifted immediately. What's wrong? Liam told her about Sophie, about the fight at school, about what the other kid had said. Elena was quiet for a long moment. I'm so sorry, she said finally, her voice thick. I didn't realize she was still struggling this much. She misses you, Elena. A lot. I miss her too. Then come back. The words were out before Liam could stop them. Elena sighed. Liam, I'm not asking you to drop everything. I'm just asking you to think about it. Because Sophie needs you, and so do I. You think I don't know that? Elena's voice cracked. You think I don't think about you every single day, about what I gave up? Then why are you still there? Because I made a commitment. Because Marcus needs stability, and I can't just uproot him again because I'm homesick. Is that all this is? Liam asked, his voice hard. Homesickness? No, Elena whispered. You know it's not. Then what is it? She didn't answer. Liam closed his eyes, pressing the heel of his hand against his forehead. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. No, you're right. You're allowed to be angry. I'm not angry. I'm just. He stopped, searching for the right word. I'm tired, Elena. I'm tired of pretending this is okay. Me too. They sat in silence for a while, the weight of everything unsaid pressing down on them. I need to go, Elena said quietly, but I'll call you tomorrow, okay? Okay? She hung up, and Liam sat alone in the dark, wondering how much more of this he could take. May arrived with warmer weather and longer days. Sophie started seeing a therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Patel, who specialized in grief counseling for kids. It seemed to help. She was talking more, smiling more, slowly finding her way back to herself. But she still asked about Elena. Not every day, but enough. Liam didn't know what to tell her anymore. One Saturday afternoon, they were at the park when Sophie's phone buzzed. She'd recently gotten her first phone, just for emergencies, Liam had said, though Sophie had immediately filled it with games and videos. She pulled it out, her eyes widening. Dad, it's Elena. Liam looked over. She texted you. Yeah. Sophie was already typing back, her fingers flying over the screen. Liam's chest tightened. He was happy Elena was reaching out, but it also felt like salt in a wound that hadn't healed. What'd she say? He asked. She asked how I'm doing, and she sent a picture of her and Marcus at the beach. Sophie turned the phone toward him. In the photo, Elena and Marcus were standing on a stretch of golden sand, the ocean behind them, both of them smiling. Elena looked happy, and that should have made Liam feel better, but it didn't. 2 weeks later, the city announced its annual Spring Festival, a week-long event with food vendors, live music, and a massive carnival set up downtown. Sophie had been begging to go for days, and Liam finally gave in. They went on a Saturday evening when the crowds were at their peak. The air smelled like funnel cake and popcorn, and music blared from every direction. Lights flashed and spun, casting everything in shades of red and gold. Sophie dragged him from booth to booth, playing ring toss and shooting water guns at moving targets. She won a stuffed bear that was almost as big as she was, and Liam carried it for her, feeling lighter than he had in weeks. "Can we go on the Ferris wheel?" Sophie asked, pointing at the giant wheel turning slowly against the darkening sky. "Sure." They got in line, and Liam checked his phone out of habit. No new messages. He slipped it back into his pocket and focused on Sophie, who was chattering about something her friend had said at school. And then he heard it. "Liam?" He turned. Elena was standing 10 feet away, holding 2 cones of cotton candy, her eyes wide with shock. Liam's heart stopped. "Elena?" he said, his voice barely audible over the noise of the crowd. Sophie whipped around. "Elena!" She dropped the stuffed bear and ran, throwing herself into Elena's arms. Elena caught her, laughing and crying at the same time. "Hey, sweetheart, hey!" "What are you doing here?" Sophie asked, pulling back to look at her. Elena glanced at Liam, her expression uncertain. "I came back. Just for a few days." "You didn't tell me," Liam said, his voice flat. Elena flinched. "I know. I'm sorry. I wasn't sure. Wasn't sure what?" "If you'd want to see me." Liam stared at her, anger and relief and something else warring inside him. "Are you serious? I didn't want to assume. Elena, I've been waiting for you to come back for 4 months. Her eyes filled with tears. I know, and I'm sorry." Sophie looked between them, confused. "Are you guys fighting?" "No," Liam said quickly. "We're not fighting." Elena wiped at her eyes, forcing a smile. "We're fine, sweetheart. I promise." Sophie didn't look convinced, but she let it go. "Can you come on the Ferris wheel with us?" Elena glanced at Liam, her expression pleading. He wanted to say no. Wanted to tell her she didn't get to just show up out of nowhere and act like everything was fine. But Sophie was looking at him with so much hope in her eyes. "Yeah," he said quietly. "She can come." The Ferris wheel was slow and quiet, a stark contrast to the chaos below. They sat in silence at first, Sophie wedged between them, chattering about the view, pointing out landmarks she recognized. Elena and Liam didn't look at each other. When they reached the top, the wheel paused, swaying gently. The city spread out below them, lights twinkling like stars. "This is so cool," Sophie said, her face pressed against the window. Elena smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Yeah, it is." Liam glanced at her. "Why didn't you tell me you were coming?" "I wanted to," she said quietly. "But I didn't know what to say." "You could have just said you were coming. And then what? We see each other for a few days and then I leave again? I didn't want to put you through that." "You don't get to decide what I can handle," Liam said, his voice low. Elena looked at him, her eyes glassy. "You're right. I'm sorry." Sophie glanced between them, frowning. "Are you guys okay?" "Yeah, kiddo," Liam said, forcing a smile. "We're okay." The wheel started moving again, and the moment passed, but the tension didn't. After the Ferris wheel, Sophie wanted to play more games. Liam stayed back, watching from a distance while Elena followed her around. He needed space, needed to think, but every time he looked at Elena, his chest ached. She'd come back. That had to mean something. Didn't it? An hour later, Sophie was starting to tire. They walked toward the exit, the crowds thinning as the night wore on. "Can Elena come home with us?" Sophie asked, her hand slipping into Elena's. Elena hesitated, glancing at Liam. "I don't think," Liam started. "Please, Dad?" He looked at Sophie's hopeful face, then at Elena's uncertain one. "Fine," he said, "but just for a little while." Back at the house, Sophie fell asleep on the couch almost immediately. Liam carried her to bed, tucking her in and kissing her forehead. When he came back downstairs, Elena was standing by the window, her arms wrapped around herself. "She's out," Liam said. "Good." They stood in silence for a moment, the weight of everything pressing down on them. "Why are you really here, Elena?" Liam asked. She turned to face him. "I needed to see you." "That's not an answer. It's the only one I have." Liam dragged a hand through his hair, frustration bubbling up. "You can't just keep doing this. Showing up, leaving, showing up again. It's not fair. I know. Then why do you keep doing it? Because I don't know what else to do. Elena's voice cracked. I don't know how to let you go, but I don't know how to stay either. So what? You're just going to keep torturing both of us? Elena's face crumpled. That's not what I want. Then what do you want? I want you, she said, her voice breaking. I want this. I want a life where I don't have to choose between the people I love. But you do have to choose, Liam said quietly. That's the reality. Elena stared at him, tears streaming down her face. I know. They stood there, the silence heavy and suffocating. I should go, Elena said finally. Liam didn't argue. She grabbed her coat and walked to the door. But before she opened it, she turned back. For what it's worth, she said, her voice barely above a whisper, I wish things were different. Yeah, Liam said. Me too. And then she was gone. The next morning, Liam woke to the sound of his phone ringing. He grabbed it, still half asleep, expecting work. But it was Elena. Hello? Liam? Her voice was frantic. I need your help, right now. He sat up, his heart pounding. What's wrong? It's Sophie. She's missing. Liam's blood turned to ice. What do you mean she's missing? I came back to the house this morning to drop off something I forgot last night, Elena said, her words tumbling over each other. The front door was unlocked and Sophie's shoes are gone. Her backpack. Liam, she's not here. Liam was already moving, throwing off the blanket, stumbling toward Sophie's room. He pushed the door open. The bed was empty. Made, like she'd never slept in it. His heart slammed against his ribs. Did you check everywhere? The bathroom? The backyard? I checked. She's not here. Liam's mind raced. When did you get there? Maybe 20 minutes ago. And you're sure the door was unlocked? Yes, Liam, what if someone... Don't, he said sharply. Don't go there. Not yet. He ran downstairs, yanking open the front door. His car was still in the driveway. The street was quiet, empty except for a few scattered birds pecking at the grass. I'm calling the police, Elena said. Wait. Liam forced himself to think. She wouldn't just leave, not without telling me. Unless she was upset. Liam's stomach twisted. Last night, the tension between him and Elena, Sophie had seen it, felt it. Where would she go? He asked, more to himself than to Elena. I don't know. The park? A friend's house? Liam grabbed his phone, scrolling through his contacts. He called Sophie's best friend's mom. No answer. He tried another. Same thing. Liam, we need to call the police, Elena said again, her voice shaking. I know, just give me a second. He thought about Sophie, about the places she loved, the park, the library, the ice cream shop on 5th Street, and then it hit him, the festival. She went back to the festival, Liam said. What? Last night, when we were leaving, she said she wanted to stay longer. She was upset when I said no. Liam, the festival doesn't open until 10. It's not even 8 yet. I know, but she doesn't. Elena was silent for a beat. Okay, I'm heading there now. I'll meet you. Liam grabbed his keys and ran. Son, the drive downtown felt like it took hours. Liam's hands gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles ached. His mind spun with worst-case scenarios. Sophie lost, scared, hurt. Or worse. He forced the thoughts down. She was fine. She had to be fine. When he pulled into the festival parking lot, it was nearly empty. A few workers were setting up booths, unloading crates, stringing lights. The Ferris wheel sat still and dark against the gray morning sky. Elena's car was already there. He spotted her near the entrance, talking to a security guard. She turned when she saw him, her face pale. Anything? Liam asked, jogging over. No, they haven't seen her, but they're checking the grounds. Liam nodded, his jaw tight. I'll start looking. I'm coming with you. They split up, moving through the empty festival grounds. Liam checked every booth, every corner, every space where a small girl might hide. He called her name until his throat was raw. Nothing. He met Elena near the carousel, both of them breathing hard. She's not here, Elena said, her voice breaking. Liam pulled out his phone. I'm calling the police. Before he could dial, Elena's phone rang. She answered it immediately. Hello? Liam watched her face shift, relief flooding in so fast she nearly collapsed. Where are you? She asked, her voice shaking. Okay, stay there. We're coming. She hung up and looked at Liam. She's at the diner, the one on Maple Street. Liam didn't wait. He ran. The diner was a small, rundown place that had been there for decades. Liam had taken Sophie there a few times for pancakes on lazy Sunday mornings. When he pushed through the door, he saw her immediately. She was sitting in a booth near the window, her backpack on the seat beside her, a glass of orange juice in front of her. She looked small, scared. Relief hit him so hard he nearly staggered. Sophie, she looked up, her eyes red-rimmed. Dad. Liam crossed the diner in 3 strides and pulled her into his arms, holding her so tight she gasped. Don't ever do that again, he said, his voice breaking. Do you hear me? Don't ever scare me like that. I'm sorry, Sophie whispered, her face buried in his shoulder. I'm sorry, Dad. Elena appeared in the doorway, her face crumpling when she saw them. She walked over slowly, like she wasn't sure if she was allowed. Liam pulled back, his hands on Sophie's shoulders. What were you thinking? Why did you leave? Sophie looked down at her lap. I heard you guys fighting last night, and I thought if I left, maybe you wouldn't be sad anymore. Liam's heart broke. Sophie, no, that's not... I don't want you to be sad because of me, Sophie continued, her voice shaking. And I don't want Elena to leave again, so I thought if I just went away for a little bit, you could figure it out without me messing everything up. Sophie, look at me. She looked up, tears streaming down her face. You're not messing anything up, Liam said firmly. You're the most important thing in my life. You and me, we're a team, and nothing is ever going to change that. But what about Elena? Liam glanced at Elena, who was standing a few feet away, her hand pressed to her mouth. I don't know, Liam admitted, but that's not your problem to solve. That's mine. Sophie sniffled, wiping at her eyes. I just want everyone to be happy. I know, sweetheart. I know. Elena stepped forward, kneeling beside the booth. Sophie, can I tell you something? Sophie nodded. I left because I thought I was doing the right thing for my brother, Elena said quietly. And maybe I was, but I was also running away from something scary. What? Letting people in, letting myself be happy, because I was afraid that if I did, I'd lose it all over again. She took a shaky breath. But you know what I realized? Being afraid doesn't protect you from losing things. It just makes you miss out on the good stuff while it's right in front of you. Sophie stared at her, her lower lip trembling. So you're staying? Elena's eyes filled with tears. She looked at Liam, then back at Sophie. I don't know yet, she said honestly. But I promise you this. I'm not running anymore. They drove back to the house together, Sophie sitting in the back seat of Liam's car, quiet but calmer. Elena followed in her own car. When they got inside, Liam made Sophie breakfast while Elena sat at the table, the 3 of them falling into a silence that felt less heavy than before. After Sophie finished eating, she looked between them. Can I go to my room? I'm really tired. Yeah, kiddo, go rest. Sophie stood, then paused. She walked over to Elena and hugged her. I'm glad you came back, she whispered. Elena held her tight. Me too, sweetheart. Sophie disappeared upstairs, and then it was just the 2 of them. Liam leaned against the counter, exhaustion settling into his bones. That was the worst morning of my life. Mine too. They were quiet for a moment. I meant what I said, Elena said finally. I'm not running anymore. What does that mean? Elena stood, crossing the kitchen to face him. It means I've spent the last 4 months trying to convince myself that leaving was the right choice, that I was doing what was best for Marcus, and maybe I was, but I was also lying to myself. About what? About what I want, about where I belong. She took a breath. I don't belong in Spain, Liam. I belong here, with you, with Sophie. Liam's chest tightened. What about Marcus? I talked to him last night, after I left here. And he told me I was an idiot. Liam blinked. What? Elena laughed, wiping at her eyes. He said he's been waiting for me to figure out that I don't have to sacrifice my entire life to make him happy. He said he's fine, that the program he's in is great, and he's made friends, and he doesn't need me hovering over him 24/7. He said that? Not in those exact words, but yeah. Liam shook his head, a small smile tugging at his lips. He's a smart kid. Too smart. Elena stepped closer. He also told me something else. What? He said you can't take care of someone if you're miserable. That I needed to stop pretending I was okay when I wasn't. Liam looked at her, really looked at her, the exhaustion in her eyes, the weight she'd been carrying. So what are you saying? He asked quietly. I'm saying I want to come home. For real this time. I want to figure out a way to make this work. Marcus's education, my job, us. I don't have all the answers yet, but I know I can't keep living like this. Liam's throat closed up. Elena, I love you, she said, her voice breaking. I love you and I love Sophie, and I'm so tired of pretending that's not enough. Liam crossed the space between them in 2 steps, pulling her into his arms. She buried her face in his chest, and he felt her shake. I love you too, he whispered. I never stopped. They stood there for a long time, holding each other like they were afraid to let go. Over the next few days, they started figuring it out. Elena reached out to her organization in Spain and requested a transfer. It turned out they had a satellite office 2 hours away. Not perfect, but manageable. She could work remotely most of the time and drive in when needed. Marcus, meanwhile, had news of his own. He called Elena 3 days after she'd told him she was coming back. So, I didn't want to say anything until it was official, he said, his voice crackling over the line. But I got a full scholarship to a prep school here, in the States. Elena froze. What? Yeah, I applied back in February. Didn't think I'd actually get it, but I did. It covers everything, tuition, room, board, the whole thing. Marcus, why didn't you tell me? Because I knew you'd make it about you. You'd start worrying about whether I applied because I wanted to or because I felt bad for you. Elena's eyes filled with tears. Did you? Want to? Yeah. I miss home, Elle. I miss having more than one person to talk to, and I miss Liam and Sophie. They're good people. Elena pressed a hand to her mouth, crying and laughing at the same time. You're sure about this? Positive. Besides, the school's only like an hour away from you guys. I can come visit on weekends. Marcus, stop crying. It's weird. Elena laughed, wiping at her face. I love you. You know that? Yeah, love you too. Now go tell Liam so he stops moping around. That evening, Elena told Liam and Sophie the news. Sophie practically exploded with excitement. Marcus is coming back? For real? For real, Elena said, smiling. That's amazing. Sophie threw her arms around Elena, nearly knocking her over. Liam stood off to the side, watching them, his chest tight with something that felt almost like hope. Later, after Sophie had gone to bed, Liam and Elena sat on the porch, wrapped in blankets against the cool spring air. So, Liam said, you're really doing this. I'm really doing this. And you're sure? Because if you have any doubts, I don't, Elena said firmly. I'm done doubting. Liam looked at her, his heart full. Okay. Okay? Yeah. He reached over and took her hand. Okay. They sat in silence for a while, the sound of crickets filling the space between them. Can I ask you something? Elena said eventually. Anything. Do you think we would have found each other if I hadn't sat down at your table that night? Liam thought about it, about the randomness of it all, the coincidence, the impossibility. I don't know, he said honestly, but I'm glad you did. Elena smiled, leaning her head on his shoulder. Me too. Yes. 3 months later, everything had settled into something that felt almost normal. Elena had moved back. She'd found a small apartment nearby, close enough to visit every day, far enough to give everyone space. Marcus had started at his new school and was thriving, coming over on weekends to hang out with Sophie and beat Liam at every board game they owned. Sophie was happier than Liam had seen her in years. And Liam was learning what it felt like to let himself be happy again. One evening in late August, Elena came over for dinner. They'd started doing that more often, cooking together, eating together, falling into a rhythm that felt easy and right. After dinner, Sophie went to her room to finish some summer reading, leaving Liam and Elena alone in the kitchen. I have something for you, Liam said, pulling a small box out of his pocket. Elena's eyes widened. Liam, relax. It's not what you think. He handed her the box, and she opened it slowly. Inside was a key. It's to the house, Liam said. I know you have your apartment, and I'm not trying to rush anything, but I want you to know you're always welcome here, that this is your home too, if you want it to be. Elena stared at the key, her eyes filling with tears. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. She looked up at him, and the smile that spread across her face was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. Yeah, she said, her voice breaking. I want it to be. Liam pulled her into his arms, and she held on tight. The following December, almost exactly a year after they'd first met, Liam took Elena and Sophie to the same restaurant where it had all started. The Silver Pine was just as crooked and over-decorated as it had been before. The lights still blinked unevenly. The garlands still drooped. But this time, it felt different. This time, they weren't strangers. They were a family. After dinner, Liam suggested they take a walk. The snow was falling softly, dusting the sidewalks and the streetlights in white. Sophie ran ahead, catching snowflakes on her tongue, her laughter echoing through the quiet streets. Elena walked beside Liam, her hand tucked into his. This is nice, she said. Yeah, it is. They reached the park, and Liam stopped near the same bench where they'd sat months ago, talking about nothing and everything. Can I tell you something? Liam said. Elena looked at him, curious. Of course. A year ago, I didn't think I'd ever feel like this again. I thought I was done, that the best parts of my life were behind me. And now? Now I know I was wrong. Elena's eyes softened. Liam. He pulled a small box out of his pocket, a different one this time. Elena's breath caught. I know we've only been doing this for a few months, Liam said, his voice shaking, and I know it hasn't been perfect. But I don't want perfect. I just want you. I want this. I want to build a life with you, and Sophie, and Marcus. I want to wake up every day knowing you're not going anywhere. He opened the box, revealing a simple silver ring. Elena Brooks, will you marry me? Elena stared at him, tears streaming down her face. Yes. Yeah? Yes, she said again, laughing and crying at the same time. Yes, yes, yes. Liam slipped the ring onto her finger, and she threw her arms around him, kissing him so hard they both stumbled. Sophie came running over, her eyes wide. Did you just... She said yes, Liam said, grinning. Sophie screamed, high and loud and full of pure joy, and launched herself at both of them. They stood there in the snow, the three of them tangled together, laughing and crying and holding on tight. Mushpa. The wedding was small. Just close friends, a few family members, and Marcus, who spent the entire ceremony trying not to cry and failing miserably. Sophie was the flower girl, and she took the job very seriously, marching down the aisle with her head held high. When Liam saw Elena walking toward him, his breath caught. She was beautiful, not in some untouchable, perfect way, but in the way that mattered, real and present in his. They said their vows under a canopy of lights, surrounded by people who loved them. And when the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," Liam didn't hesitate. He kissed her like it was the first time and the last time and every time in between. Yes. A year later, they were sitting in the living room, Liam, Elena, Sophie, and Marcus, playing some ridiculous card game that Marcus was winning by a landslide. Sophie was arguing that he was cheating. Marcus was laughing. Elena was trying to mediate. And Liam was just watching, his chest full. This was it. This was the life he'd thought he'd lost. Messy, imperfect, loud, and absolutely worth it. Later that night, after Marcus had gone home and Sophie had fallen asleep on the couch, Liam and Elena stood together in the kitchen, cleaning up. Can you believe it's been 2 years since we met? Elena said, drying a plate. Liam shook his head. Feels like longer, in a good way. Elena smiled. Yeah, it does. She set down the plate and turned to him. Thank you. For what? For not giving up. On me. On us. Liam pulled her close, pressing a kiss to her forehead. I could say the same thing to you. They stood there in the quiet, holding each other. And Liam realized something. Life didn't give you second chances because you deserved them. It gave them to you when you were brave enough to take them. He'd been terrified, broken, convinced he'd never feel whole again. But Elena had walked into his life, literally sat down at his table uninvited, and changed everything. Not because she fixed him, but because she reminded him that being broken didn't mean being finished. That sometimes the best things in life come from the moments you least expect. That love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone who makes you want to be better, who sees your flaws and chooses you anyway, who shows up even when it's hard. And that home isn't a place, it's the people you come back to. Liam looked at Elena, his wife, his partner, the woman who'd taken a chance on him when neither of them knew what they were doing, and smiled. "I love you," he said. Elena smiled back, her eyes bright. "I love you too." And for the first time in years, Liam felt like everything was exactly where it was supposed to be. Liam's blood turned to ice. "What do you mean she's missing?" "I came back to the house this morning to drop off something I forgot last night," Elena said, her words tumbling over each other. "The front door was unlocked, and Sophie's shoes are gone. Her backpack. Liam, she's not here." Liam was already moving, throwing off the blanket, stumbling toward Sophie's room. He pushed the door open. The bed was empty. Made, like she'd never slept in it. His heart slammed against his ribs. "Did you check everywhere? The bathroom? The backyard?" "I checked. She's not here." Liam's mind raced. "When did you get there?" "Maybe 20 minutes ago." "And you're sure the door was unlocked?" "Yes. Liam, what if someone—" "Don't," he said sharply. "Don't go there. Not yet." He ran downstairs, yanking open the front door. His car was still in the driveway. The street was quiet, empty except for a few scattered birds pecking at the grass. "I'm calling the police," Elena said. "Wait." Liam forced himself to think. "She wouldn't just leave, not without telling me." Unless she was upset. Liam's stomach twisted. Last night, the tension between him and Elena, Sophie had seen it, felt it. Where would she go? He asked, more to himself than to Elena. "I don't know. The park? A friend's house?" Liam grabbed his phone, scrolling through his contacts. He called Sophie's best friend's mom. No answer. He tried another. Same thing. "Liam, we need to call the police," Elena said again, her voice shaking. "I know. Just give me a second." He thought about Sophie, about the places she loved, the park, the library, the ice cream shop on 5th Street. And then it hit him. The festival. "She went back to the festival," Liam said. "What?" "Last night, when we were leaving, she said she wanted to stay longer. She was upset when I said no." "Liam, the festival doesn't open until 10. It's not even 8 yet." "I know, but she doesn't." Elena was silent for a beat. "Okay, I'm heading there now. I'll meet you." Liam grabbed his keys and ran. The drive downtown felt like it took hours. Every red light, every slow car in front of him made his hands tighten on the wheel until his knuckles went white. His mind spun with worst-case scenarios. Sophie lost in the cold morning air, scared and alone. Sophie trying to cross a busy street. Sophie talking to a stranger who seemed friendly but wasn't. He shoved the thoughts down, but they kept crawling back. When he pulled into the festival parking lot, it was nearly empty. A few workers were setting up booths, unloading crates from trucks, stringing lights between poles. The Ferris wheel sat still and dark against the gray morning sky, looking somehow ominous in the early light. Elena's car was already there, parked at an angle like she'd been in too much of a hurry to care about the lines. He spotted her near the entrance talking to a security guard in an orange vest. She turned when she saw him, her face pale and tight with worry. "Anything?" Liam asked, jogging over. "No, they haven't seen her, but they're checking the grounds now." Elena's voice trembled. "Liam, what if she's not here? What if we're wasting time and she's somewhere else, somewhere worse?" "Stop," Liam said, grabbing her shoulders. "We're going to find her, okay? We're going to find her." Elena nodded, but her eyes were glassy with unshed tears. The security guard cleared his throat. "I've got 2 guys doing a sweep right now. If she's here, we'll find her." But you folks might want to check the surrounding area too. Sometimes kids wander. Thank you, Liam said, already moving. They split up, moving through the empty festival grounds. Liam checked every booth, every corner, every space where a small girl might hide or wait. He called her name until his throat was raw, his voice echoing off the metal scaffolding and canvas tent tops. Nothing. He passed the game booths where Sophie had won that oversized bear last night. The ring toss where she'd laughed so hard she'd nearly fallen over. The cotton candy stand where she'd gotten pink sugar all over her face. All of it was dark and silent now, stripped of the magic it had held just hours before. He met Elena near the carousel, both of them breathing hard, fear written across both their faces. "She's not here," Elena said, her voice breaking. "Liam, she's not here." Liam pulled out his phone, his hand shaking so badly he almost dropped it. "I'm calling the police. We need to—" Before he could dial, Elena's phone rang. She answered it so fast she nearly dropped it. "Hello?" Liam watched her face shift, relief flooding in so fast she nearly collapsed against the carousel horse beside her. "Where are you?" she asked, her voice shaking. Okay, stay there. Don't move. We're coming right now." She hung up and looked at Liam, tears streaming down her face. "She's at the diner. The one on Maple Street." Liam didn't wait. He ran. Elena followed, both of them sprinting back to their cars. Liam's tires squealed as he peeled out of the parking lot, his heart hammering so hard he could hear it in his ears. The diner was 10 minutes away. He made it in 6. It was a small, run-down place that had been there for decades. Red vinyl booths, checkered floors, a neon sign in the window that flickered even during the day. Liam had taken Sophie there a few times for pancakes on lazy Sunday mornings, back when things were simpler. When he pushed through the door, the little bell above it chiming, he saw her immediately. She was sitting in a booth near the window, her backpack on the seat beside her, a glass of orange juice in front of her that she hadn't touched. She looked so small in that big booth, her shoulders hunched, her eyes red-rimmed. Relief hit him so hard he nearly staggered. "Sophie." She looked up and her face crumpled. "Dad." Liam crossed the diner in 3 strides and pulled her into his arms, holding her so tight she gasped against his chest. His hand shook as he pressed his face into her hair, breathing in the familiar smell of her strawberry shampoo. "Don't ever do that again," he said, his voice breaking. "Do you hear me? Don't ever scare me like that." "I'm sorry," Sophie whispered, her face buried in his shoulder. "I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry." Elena appeared in the doorway, breathing hard from running. When she saw them, her face crumpled and she pressed a hand to her mouth, tears spilling over. She walked over slowly, like she wasn't sure if she was allowed to be part of this moment. Liam pulled back just enough to look at Sophie, his hands on her shoulders. "What were you thinking? Why did you leave?" Sophie looked down at her lap, her small hands twisting together. "I heard you guys fighting last night. After I went to bed, I wasn't asleep yet and I heard you through the door." Liam's heart sank. "Sophie, and I thought if I left, maybe you wouldn't be sad anymore. Maybe you and Elena could figure things out without me being in the way." "Sophie, no," Liam said, his voice rough. You're not in the way. You're never in the way. But you were fighting because of me, because Elena had to leave and you were sad, and I made everything complicated." "Listen to me," Liam said, tilting her chin up so she had to look at him. "You didn't make anything complicated. You're the best thing in my life. You and me, we're a team, and nothing is ever going to change that. Do you understand?" Sophie's lip trembled. "But what about Elena?" Liam glanced at Elena, who was standing a few feet away, her hand still pressed to her mouth, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know," Liam admitted, his voice soft. "But that's not your problem to solve. That's mine and Elena's, not yours." "But I want everyone to be happy," Sophie said, her voice breaking. "I want us to be a family, like before, but different, better." Elena made a small sound and stepped forward, kneeling beside the booth so she was eye level with Sophie. "Sophie, can I tell you something?" she asked, her voice thick with emotion. Sophie nodded, wiping at her eyes with the back of her hand. "I left because I thought I was doing the right thing for my brother," Elena said quietly. "And maybe I was, but I was also running away from something scary." "What?" Sophie asked. "Letting people in, letting myself be happy, letting myself love someone again." She took a shaky breath. Because I was afraid that if I did, I'd lose it all over again, like I lost my parents. Sophie stared at her, her eyes wide. But you know what I realized? Elena continued, reaching out to take Sophie's hand. Being afraid doesn't protect you from losing things. It just makes you miss out on all the good stuff while it's right in front of you. So you're staying? Sophie asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Elena's eyes filled with fresh tears. She looked at Liam, then back at Sophie. I don't know yet, she said honestly, but I promise you this. I'm not running anymore. I'm done being scared. Sophie threw her arms around Elena's neck, and Elena held her tight, both of them crying. Liam watched them, his own eyes burning, and something in his chest loosened, something that had been wound tight for months. The waitress came over, an older woman with kind eyes and a pot of coffee. You folks want some breakfast? On the house. Liam managed to smile. That'd be great. Thank you. They ordered pancakes and eggs and bacon, and for a little while they just sat together in that worn booth, eating and not talking about the hard stuff. Sophie told them about how she'd walked to the diner in the dark, following the route she remembered from their Sunday visits. How the owner had recognized her and let her sit and wait, told her she could call someone when she was ready. I almost called you right away, Sophie said, drowning her pancakes in syrup, but I was scared you'd be mad. I'm not mad, Liam said. I was terrified, but I'm not mad. Me neither, Elena added, just relieved. After breakfast, they drove back to the house together, Sophie in Liam's car, Elena following behind. The morning sun was higher now, burning off the clouds, turning everything bright and clear. When they got inside, Sophie yawned, the adrenaline finally wearing off. Can I go to my room? She asked. I'm really tired. Yeah, kiddo, go rest. Sophie stood, then paused. She walked over to Elena and hugged her one more time. I'm glad you came back, she whispered. Elena held her tight. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. Sophie disappeared upstairs, and then it was just the two of them standing in the living room, the house quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the creak of old floorboards. Liam leaned against the counter, exhaustion settling into his bones like lead. That was the worst morning of my life. Mine too, Elena said, her voice hollow. They were quiet for a moment, both of them still processing what had just happened. I meant what I said, Elena said finally, looking up at him. Back at the diner. I'm not running anymore. What does that mean? Liam asked, his voice careful. Elena crossed the kitchen to stand in front of him. It means I've spent the last 4 months trying to convince myself that leaving was the right choice, that I was doing what was best for Marcus, that I was being responsible and mature and all the things I'm supposed to be. And I was lying to myself. She took a shaky breath. I don't belong in Spain, Liam. I belong here, with you, with Sophie. Liam's chest tightened. What about Marcus? I talked to him last night, after I left here, after our fight. And what did he say? Elena laughed, a sound somewhere between bitter and relieved. He told me I was being an idiot. Liam blinked. What? He said he's been waiting for me to figure out that I don't have to sacrifice my entire life to make him happy. That he's fine. Better than fine, actually. The program he's in is great. He's made friends. He's thriving. And he doesn't need me hovering over him 24/7 like some kind of helicopter parent. He said that? Not in those exact words. He used more swearing, but yeah, that was the gist. Elena wiped at her eyes. He also told me something else. What? He said you can't take care of someone if you're miserable, that I needed to stop pretending I was okay when I wasn't, that it wasn't fair to him or to me. Liam shook his head, a small smile tugging at his lips despite everything. He's a smart kid, too smart for his own good. Elena stepped closer, close enough that Liam could see the exhaustion in her eyes, the weight she'd been carrying for so long. So here's what I'm saying. I want to come home, for real this time. I want to figure out a way to make this work. Marcus's education, my job, us. I don't have all the answers yet. I don't even have most of them, but I know I can't keep living like this. Liam's throat closed up. Elena, I love you, she said, her voice breaking on the words. I love you and I love Sophie, and I'm so tired of pretending that's not enough, that I need to have everything figured out before I can let myself be happy. Liam crossed the space between them in one step, pulling her into his arms. She buried her face in his chest, and he felt her shake with sobs she'd been holding in for months. "I love you too," he whispered into her hair. I never stopped. Not for a second. They stood there for a long time, holding each other like they were the only solid thing in a world that kept shifting beneath their feet. "So what do we do now?" Elena asked eventually, her voice muffled against his shirt. "Now?" Liam pulled back just enough to look at her. "Now we figure it out. Together." "Just like that?" "Just like that." Elena searched his face, looking for doubt, for hesitation. She didn't find any. "Okay," she said, a small smile breaking through the tears. "Okay." Over the next few days, they started building a plan. Elena reached out to her organization in Spain and requested a transfer back to the States. It turned out they had a satellite office 2 hours away. Not perfect, but manageable. She could work remotely most of the time and drive in when needed. It meant a pay cut, meant fewer opportunities for advancement, meant letting go of some of the prestige that came with the international position. But it also meant waking up in the same time zone as the people she loved. It meant being able to drive to Liam's house instead of getting on a plane. It meant Sophie and movie nights and Sunday morning pancakes. It was worth it. Marcus, meanwhile, had been sitting on news of his own. 3 days after Elena told him she was moving back, he called her with something in his voice she couldn't quite place. Nervousness, maybe, or excitement. "So, I didn't want to say anything until it was official," he said, his voice crackling over the international connection. "But I got a full scholarship, to a prep school. In the States." Elena froze, her phone pressed against her ear. "What?" "Yeah, I applied back in February. Didn't think I'd actually get it, but the acceptance letter came yesterday. Covers everything, tuition, room, board, books, the whole thing." "Marcus," Elena said, her voice shaking. "Why didn't you tell me you were applying?" "Because I knew you'd make it about you," he said bluntly. "You'd start worrying about whether I was doing it because I wanted to or because I felt guilty. Whether I was giving up opportunities because of you. All that stuff you spiral about." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "Was I? Did you apply because of me?" "I applied because I wanted to," Marcus said firmly. "Yeah, I miss home. I miss you. I miss having more than one person to talk to on a regular basis. And yeah, I miss Liam and Sophie. They're good people, Elle, the kind of people you don't find everywhere." Elena pressed a hand to her mouth, crying and laughing at the same time. "But I also applied because the program is incredible," Marcus continued. "It's one of the best STEM schools in the country. They've got resources Spain can't touch. So yeah, it's a win-win. I get to come home and get a better education. Stop crying, by the way. It's weird." Elena laughed through her tears. "I can't help it. I'm proud of you, you idiot." "Yeah, well, I'm pretty proud of me too." She could hear the smile in his voice. "Now go tell Liam so he stops walking around like someone kicked his dog." "He doesn't have a dog." "You know what I mean." After they hung up, Elena sat on her apartment couch for a long time, staring at her phone, processing what had just happened. Everything was falling into place. Not perfectly. Nothing ever did. But close enough. That evening, she went to Liam's house and told him and Sophie the news. Sophie's reaction was immediate and explosive. "Marcus is coming back? For real?" "For real," Elena confirmed. Oh my gosh, Sophie jumped up and down, literally bouncing with excitement. "That's amazing. Can he come over? Can we have a party? Can we—" "Breathe, kiddo," Liam said, laughing. Sophie threw her arms around Elena, nearly knocking her over. "This is the best day ever." Elena held her tight, looking over Sophie's head at Liam. He was watching them with an expression she couldn't quite read, something soft and overwhelmed and grateful all at once. Later, after Sophie had finally calmed down enough to go to bed, Liam and Elena sat on the porch, wrapped in blankets against the cool spring air. The neighborhood was quiet, just the distant sound of traffic and the occasional bark of a dog. "So," Liam said, "you're really doing this." "I'm really doing this. And you're sure? Because if you have any doubts—" "I don't," Elena said firmly, turning to look at him. "I'm done doubting. I'm done second-guessing. I'm done letting fear make my decisions for me." Liam studied her face in the dim light from the porch lamp. "Okay." "Okay?" Yeah. He reached over and took her hand, threading his fingers through hers. Okay. They sat in silence for a while, the kind of comfortable quiet that only comes when you've been through hell together and made it out the other side. Can I ask you something? Elena said eventually. Anything. Do you think we would have found each other if I hadn't sat down at your table that night? If I hadn't been late? If you'd just had your date with the other Elena and gone home? Liam thought about it, really thought about it. About the randomness of it all, the coincidence, the sheer statistical improbability. I don't know, he said honestly. Maybe not. Maybe we would have lived our whole lives in the same city and never crossed paths again. That's a depressing thought. Yeah, but it didn't happen that way. You did sit down, you were late, and here we are. Elena leaned her head on his shoulder. Here we are. You know what I think? Liam said after a moment. I think sometimes the universe puts people in your path exactly when you need them. Not when you want them, necessarily, but when you need them. You believe in that kind of thing? Fate? I didn't used to, Liam admitted. But yeah, I think I do now. They stayed out there for another hour, talking about everything and nothing. About Marcus's new school, about Elena's job transition, about how they'd navigate weekends and holidays and all the logistics of blending their lives together. It wasn't going to be perfect. There would be challenges, adjustments, moments of frustration and doubt, but they'd face them together. 3 months later, everything had settled into something that felt remarkably close to normal. Elena had officially moved back, finding a small apartment 15 minutes from Liam's house, close enough to be part of daily life, far enough to give everyone space to breathe. She'd started her new position and was adjusting to the different pace, the different projects. Marcus had arrived in late August, tanned and taller than Elena remembered, full of stories about his summer in Spain and excitement about his new school. He came over for dinner at least twice a week, and he and Sophie had fallen into an easy sibling-like dynamic, teasing each other mercilessly but fiercely protective when it mattered. Sophie was happier than Liam had seen her in years. The therapy was helping. Having Elena and Marcus around was helping more. And Liam was learning what it felt like to let himself be happy again without waiting for the other shoe to drop. One Saturday evening in late September, Elena came over for dinner. It had become their routine, cooking together in Liam's kitchen, the four of them sitting around the table like they'd been doing this for years instead of months. Tonight it was pasta, garlic bread, and a salad that Marcus insisted on making because you people don't understand proper vegetable to dressing ratios. After dinner, Marcus challenged Sophie to a video game tournament, and they disappeared into the living room, leaving Liam and Elena alone in the kitchen with the dishes. I have something for you, Liam said, drying his hands on a towel. Elena looked up from the sink. Oh yeah? Is it my turn to do dishes next week? Because if so, I want to negotiate. Not that. He pulled a small box out of his pocket. Elena's eyes widened. Liam, relax, he said, smiling. It's not what you think. Not yet, anyway. He handed her the box, and she opened it slowly, her fingers trembling slightly. Inside was a key. It's to the house, Liam explained. I know you have your apartment, and I'm not trying to rush anything or pressure you, but I want you to know that you're always welcome here, that this is your home too, if you want it to be. Elena stared at the key, her eyes filling with tears. I know we're taking things slow, Liam continued, and I know we're still figuring out what this looks like long term, but I need you to know that you're not just visiting my life. You're part of it, really part of it. Elena looked up at him, a smile breaking through the tears. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. She set the box down on the counter and threw her arms around his neck. Yes. Yeah. I want it to be my home. Liam held her tight, breathing in the familiar scent of her perfume, feeling the solid weight of her in his arms. From the living room, they could hear Sophie and Marcus arguing good-naturedly about game strategies, their voices overlapping in the way of people who were comfortable with each other. This is good, Elena whispered against his shoulder. This is really good. Yeah, Liam agreed. It really is. Liam. The following December, almost exactly a year after they'd first met, Liam took Elena and Sophie to the Silver Pine. The restaurant looked exactly the same. The lights still blinked unevenly across the ceiling. The garland still drooped over the bar. Someone had made another attempt at fake snow on the windows, and it was already peeling. But this time, walking through those doors felt completely different. This time, they weren't strangers fumbling through an awkward blind date. They were a family. They sat at a table near the back, the same area where Liam had sat that first night, though not the exact table. Sophie chattered about school while they waited for their food, telling Elena about some drama with her friends that seemed monumentally important in the way only third-grade drama could be. Marcus had stayed home. He had a big test to study for, but his absence was comfortable rather than conspicuous. He was part of this too, even when he wasn't physically present. After dinner, Liam suggested they take a walk. The snow was falling softly, dusting the sidewalks and streetlights in white, muffling the sounds of the city. Sophie ran ahead, trying to catch snowflakes on her tongue, her laughter echoing through the quiet streets. Elena walked beside Liam, her hand tucked into his, their breath forming clouds in the cold air. "This is nice," she said. "Yeah," Liam agreed. "It really is." They walked for a while, following Sophie's meandering path through the neighborhood. Christmas lights were starting to appear on houses, some elaborate, some simple, all of them casting a warm glow against the snow. When they reached the park, Liam stopped near the same bench where they'd sat months ago, talking about grief and fear and all the things they'd both been carrying alone for too long. "Can I tell you something?" Liam said. Elena looked at him, curious. "Of course. A year ago, I didn't think I'd ever feel like this again. I thought I was done, that the best parts of my life were behind me, that all I had left was going through the motions for Sophie's sake. And now I know I was wrong." He pulled a small box out of his pocket, a different one this time, smaller, velvet. Elena's breath caught, her eyes going wide. "I know we've only been doing this, really doing this, for a few months," Liam said, his voice shaking slightly. "And I know it hasn't been perfect. We've had fights and doubts and moments where neither of us knew if we were doing the right thing." "Liam, but I don't want perfect," he continued. "I don't need perfect. I just want you. I want this. I want to wake up every morning knowing that you're not going anywhere, that we're in this together, whatever this looks like." He opened the box, revealing a simple silver ring with a small diamond that caught the light from the street lamp. "Elena Brooks, will you marry me?" Elena stared at him, tears streaming down her face, snowflakes catching in her hair. "Yes," she said, her voice breaking. "Yes, absolutely yes." "Yeah? Yes," she said again, laughing and crying at the same time. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes." Liam slipped the ring onto her finger with shaking hands, and she threw her arms around him, kissing him so hard they both stumbled in the snow. Sophie, who had been pretending not to watch from behind a tree, came running over. Did she, oh my gosh." "She said yes," Liam confirmed, grinning so wide his face hurt. Sophie screamed, high and loud and full of pure, unfiltered joy, and launched herself at both of them. They caught her, the three of them tangling together in a laughing, crying, snow-dusted heap. "We're going to be a real family," Sophie said, her voice muffled against their coats. "We already are, kiddo," Liam said softly. "We already are." They stood there in the falling snow, holding on to each other, and Liam thought about how far they'd all come. How much had changed in just 1 year. He'd learned that grief doesn't have an expiration date, that you don't get over losing someone, you just learn to carry it differently. He'd learned that opening yourself up to love again is terrifying, because it means accepting that you could lose it all over again. But the alternative, closing yourself off, playing it safe, never taking the risk, means missing out on everything that makes life worth living. He'd learned that family isn't always about blood. Sometimes it's about the people who show up, who stay, who choose you over and over again, even when it's hard. And most importantly, he'd learned that second chances don't come because you deserve them. They come when you're brave enough to take them. The wedding was small and perfect in all the ways that mattered. They got married in early June, in the same park where Liam had proposed. Just close friends, a handful of family members, and Marcus, who spent the entire ceremony trying not to cry and failing spectacularly. "I'm not crying," he insisted, wiping at his eyes. "I have allergies." "It's June," Sophie pointed out. "Exactly, pollen season." Sophie was the flower girl, and she took the job with the same serious determination she brought to everything. She walked down the aisle with her head held high, scattering petals like she was performing surgery. When Elena appeared at the end of the aisle, Liam's breath caught. She wasn't wearing some elaborate gown or dramatic veil, just a simple white dress and flowers in her hair. But she was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. Not because she was perfect, but because she was real. Because she was his. They'd written their own vows. Liam went first, his hands shaking as he read from the card he'd written and rewritten a dozen times. Elena, a year and a half ago, you sat down at my table by accident and changed my entire life. You reminded me what it feels like to be seen, to be understood, to be hopeful again. You showed me that being broken doesn't mean being finished. And you taught me that the best kind of love isn't the kind that fixes you. It's the kind that accepts you exactly as you are and helps you become who you're meant to be. I promise to show up for you, even when it's hard, to choose you every single day, to build a life with you that's messy and imperfect and absolutely worth it. By the time he finished, Elena was crying openly. Liam, she began, her voice shaking, I came into your life at my lowest point. I was exhausted, scared, convinced I had to handle everything alone. You taught me that asking for help isn't weakness, that letting people in doesn't make you vulnerable. It makes you human. You gave me a home when I didn't even realize I was looking for one. You gave me a family, and you gave me permission to want things for myself without feeling guilty about it. I promise to love you and Sophie and the life we're building together. I promise to stay, even when things get hard. And I promise to keep choosing this every single day because you're worth it. When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," Liam didn't hesitate. He kissed her like it was the first time and the last time and every time in between. The reception was in someone's backyard, strung with lights and filled with laughter. They danced badly to music from a borrowed speaker. They ate cake that was slightly lopsided because Sophie had insisted on helping decorate it. They toasted with champagne and sparkling cider and told stories that got more exaggerated with each retelling. It was chaotic and imperfect, and absolutely perfect. Late in the evening, after most of the guests had left and Sophie had fallen asleep on a pile of coats, Liam and Elena stood together at the edge of the yard, watching the last of the daylight fade. "So," Elena said, leaning into him, "we did it. We did. How does it feel?" Liam thought about it. "Like coming home." Elena smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. "Yeah, it does." They stood there in the fading light, and Liam realized something. Life doesn't give you the things you want just because you want them. It gives you the things you need when you're finally ready to receive them. A year later, they were all crammed into the living room, Liam, Elena, Sophie, and Marcus, playing some ridiculous card game that Marcus was winning by an absurd margin. Sophie was accusing him of cheating. Marcus was gloating. Elena was trying to mediate while simultaneously stealing cards from Liam's hand when he wasn't looking. "I saw that," Liam said. "Saw what?" Elena asked innocently. "You're all cheaters," Sophie declared. "Pot, kettle," Marcus said, pointing at the 3 cards Sophie had hidden under her leg. It was loud and chaotic and completely ridiculous, and Liam wouldn't change a single thing. Later that night, after Marcus had gone home and Sophie had finally crashed on the couch mid-movie, Liam and Elena stood together in the kitchen, cleaning up the debris of the evening. "Can you believe it's been 2 years?" Elena asked, loading plates into the dishwasher. Liam shook his head. "Feels like longer. In a good way." "Yeah, it does." Elena closed the dishwasher and turned to face him. "Thank you." "For what?" "For not giving up. On me. On us. For believing in this even when I couldn't." Liam crossed the kitchen and pulled her close. "I could say the same thing to you." They stood there in the quiet, holding each other, the house settling around them with the comfortable sounds of home, the hum of the refrigerator, the tick of the clock, Sophie's soft breathing from the other room. "I love this life," Elena whispered. "Me too," Liam said. And he meant it, because he'd learned something over the past 2 years, something he hadn't understood before. Love isn't about finding someone who completes you. It's about finding someone who challenges you to become the best version of yourself. It's not about perfect moments. It's about choosing to show up for the imperfect ones. It's not about avoiding pain or loss or fear. It's about deciding that the joy, the connection, The shared laughter and tears and ordinary Tuesday evenings are worth the risk. He'd been terrified to love again, terrified to let someone in, terrified of losing something he couldn't bear to lose. But Elena had walked into his life, literally sat down at his table uninvited, and showed him that being afraid was natural, that grief was normal, that he didn't have to have all the answers to take the next step. She'd reminded him that home isn't a place you find. It's something you build, one day at a time, with the people brave enough to stay. And that sometimes the best things in life come from the moments you least expect, from the accidents and coincidences and random chances that change everything. Liam looked at Elena, his wife, his partner, the woman who'd taken a chance on him when neither of them knew what they were doing, and smiled. "What?" she asked. "Nothing. Just thinking about how lucky I am." Elena's eyes softened. "We both are." "Yeah, we really are." They finished cleaning up together, moving around the kitchen in the comfortable rhythm of people who'd learned each other's patterns. When they were done, they stood at the doorway to the living room, looking at Sophie curled up on the couch, peaceful in sleep. "Think we should wake her?" Elena asked. "Nah, let her sleep. I'll carry her up in a bit." They turned off the lights and headed upstairs, hand in hand, to the room they now shared. And as Liam lay in bed that night, Elena already asleep beside him, he thought about everything that had brought them here. The pain, the fear, the loneliness, the courage it took to try again, the grace of being given a second chance, the quiet miracle of ordinary love. He thought his story was over, that the best chapters were behind him, but he'd been wrong. Sometimes the best parts of your life start right when you think they've ended. Sometimes the person you need walks in right when you've stopped looking. And sometimes sitting down at the wrong table at the right time changes absolutely everything. Liam closed his eyes, pulled Elena closer, and let himself drift off to sleep. Grateful, content, home.